Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Fuerer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast, where we talk about all things positivity, mindset, helping people think better thoughts on the inside to create better results on the outside. And although this program and this show was initially designed for the home improvement space, we love its ripple effect. So it's really for anybody and anyone just looking to create a better life and willing to take a look at themselves. I'm your host, Shawn Fuerer, along with my beautiful host,
Kaitlin Fuerer.
Co-pilot.
That's right, all the things.
Co-creator.
Yeah. It takes two pilots to fly a plane.
It does. And what happens when I'm tired?
I take over because I don't get tired.
That's true, you don't.
Well, I'm
actually a little tired.
I love that you said the home improvement space, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just for home improvement, it's for mind improvement.
It is. I mean, Remodel Your Mind for Success isn't about home improvement, but it's where I've literally spent the last 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I really grew up in the industry, but it's been really cool, the journey for me in mindset that's been paralleled with the home improvement industry and even the topic we want to talk about today.
Oh my gosh,
You know,
yes.
Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, I first got introduced, I think, about the time that I met Charlie Gindell.
It's his favorite.
And he talks about that book and a lot of the principles all the time. And I remember my dad, Ralph, coming to one of our management meetings and, this is the book we're going to read this month, guys, and Good to Great, and we're going to build something great here. But it's interesting because what is good, Kaitlin? Is good really good?
For a lot of people, they think that. I thought that for a long time. I mean, I remember 6 years ago, it showed up in my Time Hop app, and I screenshot this. It was like a meme or some kind of visual, right?
Yeah.
I'd seen it on probably Instagram. And it said, don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great.
Oh.
And that hit me. And I was like, I remember I would tell everybody that, but I wasn't applying it so much to myself. I was to the level that I thought,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what great looked like.
Yeah, you didn't even know what really good looked like, I don't think.
I had an idea, but I thought maybe that's not for me. Like that idea of good is for really successful, amazing people, but probably not for me.
What about real love? Was that good or possible for
That
you?
was fake, I thought.
That was fairy tales?
That was for Disney movies and Hallmark shows, and it was
Well,
not
you are
real.
a Disney princess, so you
It's
should
true.
have at least thought it was possible for you at some point.
I didn't. I thought that, marriage was based on convenience and tax breaks, and I thought that relationships were just about how much you could put up with someone, and now I know that relationships, a relationship and true love, it really has to do with not you making that other person better, but the relationship making each of you the best version of yourself.
Yeah. It's funny you said you thought relationships were about tax breaks, because I thought they were about tax deductions, because mine got to be very expensive.
That's true.
But we all had our own paradigms, but it's interesting because I remember hearing, and I can't remember if it's in the book or where I heard it, and maybe it is, but the good is the enemy of great.
Yeah, good is the enemy of great.
And I've never understood that more than I do today with mindset work, because I get so many people that I run into or that are possibly interested in working with us in our amazing program, and they're stuck in good. And they're so good that it is the enemy of great. They're afraid to even ask for their greatness because of the stories they've been told. A lot of it comes to do with I should just be thankful that I'm good.
Yeah. I'm doing better than I ever thought I would be, so I'm good. I'm good.
When I look at me, and I really throw myself under the bus and talk about my rock bottom in 2014, and it started about 2008 with the Great Recession. But prior to that, I was just stuck in really good.
Yeah.
And to me, really good was relationships that didn't serve, but they were better than I thought possible at some level. Mm-hmm. A business that wasn't doing what I wanted it to, but was providing a good living. So how could I leave it or do something else? And even in my body, I looked okay, but not great, but it was good, right? And I had people around me that I felt like I was doing good in comparison to.
Yeah.
And part of the good is what are you comparing yourself to?
Yeah.
And you shouldn't compare to anything on the outside, but we do.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're stuck around a bunch of good, you might even think you're doing really good. And then you get some of the places we've been, and I think we're doing great,
But at some levels, we're just doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, it's just the beginning.
Yeah, there's, in mindset, we talk about set points. And what I thought was good is now up here. And what I thought was great is now by the moon somewhere.
Yep.
And that's where I've been able to set it. So I guess for listeners here, just think about this idea. So many people, and we talk about the trifecta a lot, in your finances. Are you doing pretty good? Because some people are.
Yeah. Doing better than their parents, doing
Yeah.
better than they thought they would in the position that they're
And
at.
in this economy, if you're able to make your house payment, put groceries, and take a trip once a year, that's actually pretty good because things are expensive in relation to where wages have gone. And if you're not doing something commission-based or maybe self-employed, if you're stuck just on a fixed wage right now, that can be less than good.
Yeah. Or you could look at it like for my company or for my position that I'm in, I'm doing really good.
Yeah.
So I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
How many people tell us that? Our clients, it's so funny. Sometimes I'm good. And it's so funny. It goes back. I hate the term. This is as good as it gets. I've always hated when people would say that because I'm like, no, it's not. Like there's
Yeah.
no such thing as good as it gets. Like it's as good as it is right now, and it's going to get better. I'm always chasing shiny objects. I'm always looking for the next best thing. So when people would say that, it would drive me crazy, and it still does to this day. Like, no, I'm good, and this is as good as it gets. And I'm like, you don't even know the half of it.
Well, and again, I do understand I should just be thankful, right?
Yeah.
And we have a couple clients that are both preachers' sons, and they're both very successful, but they've shared their mindset journey of giving themselves permission to ask for more because God provides. I should just be grateful for what I have. And if I have enough to feed the family and live comfortably, I should just settle for that. But to me, there's just fundamentally something wrong with the idea of getting stuck at good. Because, my mentor, Bob Proctor, and you've heard me say it a million times, we're either growing or we're dying.
Yes.
And if you're stuck in good and you stay there too long, you're dying. You're going backwards. And Bob, I love the first time I heard him in person talk about, if you don't believe in this, think about when you die. And they put you in a wooden box in the ground, he would say, you disintegrate.
Yeah, even with all the chemicals they put in your body to preserve it.
You still disintegrate.
Your cells are
once
constantly
you're dead,
in motion.
you're still dying. And for me, going back to I was in a funk in 2014. What led to that was I was pretty good in a lot of areas, and I stopped being intentional. I stopped doing even the few mindset tools I had back then because I was stuck in good. So listeners, if you're listening right now thinking, I don't know what they're talking about, I'm good, rethink that because you're not.
Well, it's so funny. I think back to the lifeboat exercise we did in the impact trainings that we met in. And we had just met, and I remember you were someone that volunteered yourself.
I was still good.
You were the first person to volunteer. I'll let someone else get in the lifeboat. I'm not going to do that.
Well, let's explain. So listeners, they put us in a room with about 40 people that we now bonded with. My best friend, Janitha, my future wife, Caitlin's in the room, and they gave us 5 popsicle sticks, and they said, we're on a boat like the Titanic, and we're going down. And was it 5 people could get off?
Only 5 people will
5
live.
people could get off. And in order for you to get off, you had to remain, I think, 3 of the 5. You could give away 2. The details don't matter. But you had to choose who in the room would get to live and who would die.
And I remember you were the first person that volunteered to go out, to go down with the ship. And I remember you said, I'm good. And people were telling you, saying things like, Shawn, what about this, what about this? And you were like, I'm good. My kids are grown.
Are all grown.
I've lived a good life.
They don't want to spend much time with me anyway, so if I'm here or not doesn't matter, not to pity, but that's kind of the situation of the time.
And you'd lived a good life,
I'm
you said.
I'm divorced, I'm single, so I don't have any obligation to anybody else. I'm looking around the room. There's a bunch of women younger than me. There's a bunch of, I'm going to call them children because they were in their early 20s. And my program from my grandpa was be a man and women and children first, Shawn. And so 2 levels, I was good. One is my ethics said, I can't get in a lifeboat and save myself if a young adult is going to drown or a woman in the room is going to drown. And then I looked at my life, and gosh, even though I went through some struggle, I'd lots of vacations, I'd lived in a beautiful home, I'd had these good things, and my mom was gone. My dad was on his way out. I literally was like, I'll go down with the boat.
Yeah, I remember I wasn't physically saying, because we actually weren't supposed to talk during it, and I was energetically just screaming at you, but what about great? But what about great? But what about great? And I remember when you chose yourself to live, it brought tears to my eyes because I'm like, here is someone, because this is my passion in life, is to get people to choose themselves and to see their greatness and to strive for greatness in every moment. And it brought tears to my eyes that you chose yourself. and not even to the level where I chose myself. I still didn't in that exercise.
you didn't.
I didn't.
You drowned.
I drowned, and metaphorically speaking, and it's so crazy for me because in my life I was settling in so many ways of like, no, I'm good too. I can save all these other people.
You were drowning already.
I was already
and
drowning.
didn't know it. I mean, that's
No.
even the worst kind.
And so as I'm screaming at people energetically and out loud physically, like, don't be afraid to give up the good. Like, you have to experience greatness. We are all capable of it.
We're destined for greatness.
I still wasn't choosing it for myself.
Yeah. Well, and I do. And it was a powerful moment because I remember the moment I decided to choose me. And literally, at some point, I gave you a popsicle stick.
You did.
But
You knew back then.
I must have known something. But I remember looking at what is now our best friend, Janitha, and I had to hold the popsicle stick in front of her and then take it back.
Yep.
I still got emotional thinking about that. Like, that's one of my favorite humans, and I had to pick myself. But what got me to that decision was my inner blueprint goal.
Yeah.
I looked around the room, and I had greatness inside of me. And my worthy goal is to get our company, as you know, because it's part of your goal as well, worldwide impact, inner blueprint in 26 languages, over 30 countries, in programs for nonprofit, 18 to 25-year-olds, in homeless shelters, which we've already started the progress.
Yeah.
Mentoring people that can't afford it and want a better lifestyle. I've got my buddy in Jamaica that we met on our honeymoon that I've gifted and scholarshiped into Inner Blueprint, and he's doing the work. I'm going to help millions of people worldwide remove self-limiting beliefs that chains that hold us back so more people may live their lives in their version of freedom, abundance, fun, and love. And as I looked around that room, and I already had this goal, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to do it. And I thought, there's not one person in this room that has the intention to have the impact on this planet that I do, and I deserve to live. And that's the moment I chose me. And again, we did a prior episode where I talked about in 2019, in front of Bob Proctor and 250 consultants, I committed to do the work. And in that moment, I had to say, are you interested, Shawn, or are you committed? Because if you're interested, you'll go down with this boat. If you're committed, you'll be selfish and you'll choose you, and you'll go on to change the planet. And I chose me, and I broke down in tears. The facilitator came over and put his arm around me and said, how does that feel? He said, I'm going to guess that's the first time in your life you've chose you. And
Yeah.
it was.
And
I mean, I got accused of it through the divorce, that I was selfish and I was only thinking of myself.
Yeah.
But I actually wasn't. I was thinking about the impact a bad relationship was having on my children. I was thinking about the impact of the version of me showing up was affecting everybody around me long term. And as you know now, I was right.
Yeah.
You know, the lifestyle that I'm able to provide for myself, for you, for the girls, for even people that aren't plugging into it. You know, I've got siblings, I've got kids. They all get to benefit, if they're willing, to this version of me, because this version is greatness. This version is authenticity. It is vulnerability. It is power.
Yep.
And I'm willing to give it away to anybody that's willing to meet me where I am. And that's, to me, been my journey from good to great. And again, I'm not great yet. I'm really good.
This is just the
Just
beginning.
getting started, just
This
getting
is
started.
just the beginning.
Yeah.
And so why do you think people get stuck in good? Like, I know for me, it was a level of
Comfort.
worthiness. No, it was, for me personally, it was a level of worthiness. I didn't believe I was worthy of more. And so for me, I was like, I'm happy with what I have. I'm a very happy person. I'm good. I'm good. It's fine. Actually, I'd always say, it's fine. Everything's
Yeah.
fine. I'm fine. It's fine.
To this day, if I hear you say that,
You're like-
one, I know we got a conversation to have, because that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You're not fine.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too, and listeners, if you want to take a deep dive on this, James Twyman has a book called The Moses Code, which is a phenomenal book that explains the power of the statement, I am, coming from God, coming from the Bible, and what you put behind that, you can create. And I'd studied the book for years, but it wasn't until right before our honeymoon that I was going through the back of the book, and I'd read it once or twice, but I hadn't noticed. And he's got these two segments. And the one is the 10 blocks to manifesting. And block number 1, and this was true for Miss Kaitlin. At some level, it's true for me. At some level, it's true for you.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to ask for more. I'm not worthy to attract more. I don't deserve it. And so, yes, to get from good to great, the first step for anybody is understand the power of affirmation and understand that at some level you think you're not worthy, and you actually think you're not enough. 2 affirmations I say and you say every day.
Every day.
And I've taught the girls to say it.
Yep.
I sent these to my little brother who wouldn't take them from me. I am enough. I'm always enough. I've always been enough.
And that was a hard one.
Worthy.
Yeah, that was a hard one for me because I'd always been told my whole life that I'm too much.
Too much.
And so my affirmation is I am enough. I am more than enough.
And you are more than enough.
I am more than enough.
And you don't have to do anything to be that either. That's the cool thing.
I just am me.
Is for you to step into your greatness. Good was you trying to use every skill and talent you had.
Yeah.
And serve and serve and serve and serve.
Yeah.
Which left you with not much left. And now that you're striving towards your greatness,
Every
you
day.
do less and create more.
So much more. And the impact I have is so much greater than it's ever been. The messages I get daily from people that I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that we were still connected on social media, and you're seeing my stuff and you're listening to my podcast, and oh my God, and it's made these changes in your life. And the fact that I'm so honored that we get to be a part of people's journey from good to great. And another thing I think that keeps people stuck in good is fear. They think, I've worked so hard to get to this point. Either one, I don't know what it's going to take to get any better, or two, I don't want to know because it was so fucking hard to get here.
Well, and I think too, at some level, when we get to good, we've accumulated some things that we wanted. Not maybe everything, but we might have a house, we might have a little bit in savings,
Good
we have
business.
good income. And the more you get to good, the more you have to lose.
Yeah.
And you get afraid of losing the good, and the fear of losing the good keeps you going from the great. But if you stay there, you do end up losing some of the good.
So it's funny.
So it's an oxymoron.
So a lot of good is tied with a level of scarcity at some level.
Yeah.
And greatness, there's no scarcity.
No, we live in an abundant world.
The most abundant.
Is there enough air?
It's like oxygen.
Is there enough water?
What I say, we're in this room right now. If I breathe as much as I can, and you breathe as much as you can, and we brought 100 other people in this room to breathe as much as they can, guess what? There would still be oxygen, enough for everyone.
Yeah, and the world around us, through earthquakes, through wars, the world keeps moving. God made an abundant recycling. And even our bodies, the cells in our bodies regenerate like every 30 days. You're actually a completely new version. You are constantly in motion, and yet we get in a comfort zone, and we try and stop the motion. And we don't. The motion just starts going either up or down. Greatness is up. Good leads to down. And so, that's the challenge. And for some people, the fear on the outside of things that aren't real and aren't true, because fear isn't real, danger is. And there's no danger to growth. There's uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
But when we get stuck in it, now we're in a comfort zone. And we talked about on Charlie's episode with his book, More Lessons Learned, his chapter 1 is the danger zone. And he talks about, for people, it's getting into what they think is the danger zone. But to me, good is your danger zone.
It is.
Good is dangerous.
It's
good is even more dangerous.
Yep.
Because, when I get people into my program and our program, got to get used to a co-pilot, you guys. I flew solo for a few years.
I'm like, who's in this program?
Yeah.
No, it's all right.
Yeah, no. This program wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Kaitlin. For 2 years, she told me I needed my own program. And for 2 years, I wasn't worthy of my own program. I couldn't do it as good as Bob. I couldn't. And then I did.
Yeah.
And then I did.
And it's been miraculous. And so the good to great thing, it's so many people do get stuck in good, and maybe you're stuck in good right now. And so you have to ask yourself, is it a level of worthiness? Is it fear? Or what else do you think it could be, Shawn? What else do you see with our clients and our
it's
friends?
a comfort zone.
Just fix your mic real quick.
Okay.
Probably just came down a little over time.
Gravity's real.
It is. So I'll ask again. So Shawn, what else do you see with our clients, with our friends, with people just in general that get them stuck in good?
It's exactly what we were just talking about, though, Kaitlin. It's the comfort zone. It's comfortable. It's comfortable. And when it gets comfortable, there are people that are comfortable in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Right? It's called a trauma bond.
Yep.
And the comfort, and you've had some trauma bonds, right?
Yes.
And you're more comfortable in the trauma bond
Because I'm used to it.
than you are, and you almost get addicted to it because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
If you're used to it and you go to step out of it and it's going to be scary, and instead of some of the comfortable things inside of this comfort zone, which there is a little bit of comfort always, it's scary to think of that you have to find a new job, a new life partner, a new this, a new that. And it's the scary of the unknown that keeps people stuck.
And sometimes, though, you don't even need to find those new things. Sometimes you just have to change something in you to make everything around you better. But that's scary.
But what percentage of the population is willing to do that? It's less than 5%.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I'm working with a really high-level visualization coach right now that's done a lot of study on this. And in his study, he's found multiple sources that state 95% of people, up to possibly 98, would not use a free tool that would take less than 15 minutes a day, that if they did it every day, it would change their life.
It's wild.
Now, I can't explain that, but if you think about that, literally we have people running around out of shape, overweight, doing work they don't love, making money that's lower than they deserve, in relationships that don't serve them, and they could find something, and our program isn't expensive, there's a cost attached to it, but in 30 minutes or less a day, you can change your life. You can go from where I was 5 years ago to barely affording $500 rent to live in my buddy's basement to now living in the home of my dreams, the car of my dreams, the woman of my dreams, the family of my dreams, the French bulldogs I never knew I dreamed of, right? It's all possible, and it's all come easier,
Yep.
but I had to get uncomfortable.
You have to get and it's so funny what we condition ourselves to be comfortable with. How many people sleep on, a shitty mattress for so long, and they think it's fine, I'm comfortable, and then they get a new bed or a new mattress, and they're like, oh my God, I was so uncomfortable.
A pillow. How many years do you use the same pillow that's uncomfortable? And how much is a new pillow? It's not even a scarcity thing. It's a comfort thing.
But we just get comfort, and so many people get scared of change. There's so many people, especially if you're on the disc, you're a high S, you hate change.
And I actually went live on social media in 2017, a couple years after I started the process. But when I made the decision that I probably needed to leave my family business, and after 2 years of me trying to save my marriage and doing everything I could, paying thousands of dollars to counselors, realizing that I might have to leave it as well, my biggest fear, which goes back to some abandonment issues as a young child, was being all alone. Mm-hmm. And to me, being stuck in good, even though I still felt alone in a lot of ways, was more comfortable than actually being alone. And in order for me to get to where I could be at a place to meet you and to attract you and to keep you, I had to be alone for quite a while.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear that wasn't fully realized in my comfort zone was realized when I stepped out of good, chasing greatness. And I cried myself to sleep. I remember the first Christmas without my kids. I think I stayed at my sister's house, and she was out with friends, and I was literally looking at a Christmas tree all by myself. I remember when I moved to St. George for a year to get away because I'd been isolated. When I made the decision for divorce, I knew I was losing my ex-wife, but I actually ended up losing my 4 kids for a little while.
And how many
And
friends?
my entire friend group got turned to me, and an entire side of the family that had known me for 20 years, and I thought would understand at some level and at least be friendly to me. I mean, I literally got trashed on social media. Yeah. Like being told my ex took out the garbage when she got rid of me. And my kids were told that, and they stopped wanting to talk to me. And friends, I have a friend that lives in Idaho that his daughter was visiting, ran to somebody in the mall, went home, and my buddy called me and said, you won't believe this. My daughter just came home and was like, can you believe Shawn? Can you believe what he did? The stories that were being told isolated me. And I remember being alone in St. George. I brought my daughter with me. But she was at school all day. I was literally alone. My dad lives there, and I was able to reconnect with my biological dad. But for me to find the greatness that I experienced today, and listeners, most people don't have to go.
They don't have to drop an A-bomb on their lives.
Yeah, I mean, my little sister, when I was going through it, she said, geez, you dropped an atomic bomb. You're changing careers. You're single. You're going through divorce. You're moving. Like, you're literally changing everything. And I did, and it was so uncomfortable. Back then in the disc profile, I was more of an S, which is steady, supportive, very resistant to change. And overnight, my entire world was changed. I mean, I was literally living out of a suitcase, having a travel bag I took everywhere because I was traveling so much for work. I was ending up in random places, and I was all alone. And it was so uncomfortable. And the best thing that could have ever happened to me, the very best.
It's true.
In my loneliness, I found me. Mm-hmm. In my loneliness, I found God. In my loneliness, I ended up finding you.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have been alone long enough, I wouldn't have done the work necessary. Because we've talked about it, Kaitlin, and it's no lie. I mean, my friends joke I outkicked the coverage, but if I would have met you in like 2017 or 18,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to keep you. I didn't love myself enough. I didn't trust myself enough. I hadn't been alone long enough. I hadn't been uncomfortable long enough to find the true version, my inner blueprint. And for those of you listeners, in our program, we talk about, we're not trying to change who you are.
No.
I never tried to change who I was. I'm just trying to get back to that blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy that was perfect.
Well, and
And I was perfect up until I was about 2 years old.
it takes a lot of unlearning of the bullshit that is programmed into
Yeah.
us.
And that's not easy.
It's not. And, you know, a lot of people spend most of their 30s unlearning things, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes
And we're
their
trying to
40s.
push it to most, you know.
We'd like to, yeah.
Our program, we've worked with quite a few now in the 18 to 25-year-old space.
It's easier for them. It's so much easier for them.
Yeah, because when I started, I was 40. You know, that's taking paradigms from before 10 years old and reinforcing them by negatively affirming yourself for 30 years.
Yeah.
You get somebody who's 20 years old, like Abby Desjardins. I mean, that girl, woman, superwoman,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She has higher awareness at her age than most 60-year-olds.
It's true. And Alia,
And Alia,
I mean,
oh my
it-
gosh.
it's so much easier to-
24-year-old business owner.
right?
Just rocking it, dealing with challenges.
Yeah.
High awareness, studying Inner Blueprint with us, finding who she really is. All the stories she was told aren't true, aren't hers. And they've only been running for a decade, you know. From the time you're 10 to 20, you still have a lot of time to change. You know, and we do have, you know, some of our oldest students. I've worked with an 80-year-old before that
Yeah.
wanted to change his mindset. I've got
He said
lots
the
of
best.
60 and
Yeah,
70s.
he said my best 20 years are ahead of me, and he meant it. And it's so funny because it just goes to prove you are, whether you're in your teens right now or you're in your 70s or 80s and listening to this, you have the power to completely change your life by changing yourself to the perfect version of yourself.
Yeah, and it's not changing that much on the outside.
No.
It's changing everything. You know, Jack Canfield has that story he tells about the golden Buddha.
Yes.
And I won't go through the whole story, but basically there was a golden Buddha that got covered in clay to protect it, and the monks protecting it got annihilated by an army. And when the army annihilated him, they didn't want the stupid clay Buddha, so they left it. And later, a different
Century.
century, some other Buddhists had found it and were worshiping this clay Buddha and were moving it around, and they dropped it. And when they dropped it, it cracked. And over the next couple of days, they discovered when they put a flashlight in the crack, it shined. And they started chipping off the clay, and they found a solid gold worth hundreds of millions of dollars that had been hidden. And when Jack tells that story, he talks about how his wife said, Jack, that's kind of like the work you do. Mm-hmm. You find humans that have a lot of clay and mud and muck on them, and they forgot how to shine,
Yeah.
and you help them find their shine. And that's what I did. I found my shine. That's
And
what you've done. You are radiant, babe.
Yeah.
You're radiant.
Absolutely.
It was always there, but we couldn't see it.
No, and it's because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it.
Do you
And
see it today?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you really see it?
I really see it.
Do you know you're enough?
I am more than enough.
All right. Are you worthy?
Absolutely.
All right. Just got to check, because even though we do the work, do you ever feel like you're not?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It still creeps up, and so that's
Do I
why.
ever get in my head?
Absolutely. And so it's so funny because the work never stops, and you're never too young or too old to start. And it doesn't matter what your age is or where you are in life. You can go from good to great overnight.
Yeah.
It takes a decision.
Yeah, it does. Well, in the mindset, when we go deep into it, you know, Neville Goddard in his book Awareness has this chapter on the effortless way. Mm-hmm. And it literally talks about in quantum physics, the fastest way to get something done is minimum time and minimum energy.
Yeah.
And you can move a particle the fastest when you use minimum time and minimum energy. And in mindset, the psychological journey is using the law of assumption, which ties back to the I am statement. If I'm stuck in scarcity and I want to get to abundance, we always wait for the outside world to match that desire.
Yeah.
But I go from scarcity to abundance in 30 seconds. I'm abundant. I go from being upset to happy in 30 seconds by saying I am grateful and then following with the things. And so this doesn't, now long term, in our program, it takes 6 months to start to really get some patterns rewired.
Yeah. Awareness of that.
Awareness of them and then changing them. But in the moment, I can shift everything by changing me.
Yeah.
And not one thing. And we've had people in challenging relationships overnight improve the relationship by improving their version and their mindset of the relationship. And it's so crazy. You know, we talked about in the holidays, you know, some people complain about their relatives. I'd give anything if I could go see my mom and dad
Right.
for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, same.
And I can't. And if you can, and you complained about it this Thanksgiving, knock it off. Just appreciate they're here. Appreciate they're still alive. Because my mom drove me crazy in a lot of ways. My dad, same thing. I would love to complain about them. I would love to have the opportunity to spend some time with them and be annoyed. I don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting stuck in good is really a danger zone.
It is. I think we made that clear, right?
Yeah.
I got stuck in it and it was shit. You got stuck in it?
It was chaos.
Yeah. And it took us a while to climb out of it, and we're still climbing it. So
We still climb every day.
yeah. So be intentional. You know, we've talked in past episodes. What can you do about it? Start practicing daily gratitude every day. Start doing some IMs. And if you're one of those people, like so many that say, I don't do affirmations, yes, you do. Every day you tell yourself automatically, at some level you're not enough. At some level you're scarcity. At some level you're too old, too tall, too short, too fat, too big, too small. Like you already have negative programs running. The power of an I am is you change it. You decide something different. But again, pick one of these things. Start listening to more podcasts like this one. You know, Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Bob Proctor still has all his videos out there. Jack Canfield. There's so much good information.
Yeah.
And what I love about the algorithms is YouTube, I don't search for anything anymore. I've listened to enough material that I like. You know.
Feeds it to
I mean,
you.
can you believe what it feeds me?
No, it's
I mean,
amazing.
the one, I was at my parents' grave and literally thinking about my parents last weekend, and my phone popped up with a YouTube video. There was a message from your ancestors that included a Disney song.
Yeah.
My mom loved Disney. I'm sitting at their grave crying, listening to this beautiful woman that came to me through an algorithm on an app.
Well, it's so funny. And so all of those things are how you keep going from good to great. But it really starts with a decision.
Yeah.
You have to decide, because the one thing that every human wants is more.
Yes.
And so what do you want more of? Do you want more time to do what you want to do? Do you want more freedom? Do you want more love? What do you want? You have to decide what that is. And then you have to decide, am I willing to do what it takes?
But it's hard and
for
good.
it.
I mean, one last thing before we wrap this episode up. I didn't make the decision when I was stuck in good. I made the decision after.
Well, you're a very stubborn human, and so it took
Rock bottom.
rock bottom for you.
But for a lot of people,
It doesn't.
And that's why we're doing this episode is don't get to rock bottom.
Yeah, I didn't have to.
Because you were close though.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't have to go through what you went through to choose greatness. I just had to actually look in the mirror and go, I deserve better.
Yeah.
And-
But I mean, you're minimizing. It was pretty bad.
I mean, it was
for you to make the decision.
It was bad.
It wasn't good.
What I want to tell like listeners though is it doesn't have to be rock bottom.
No, for them it shouldn't. That's why we're delivering the message.
Yes.
For most people it does.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the author of the Harry Potters? She talks about
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, what's her quote? Rock bottom is the foundation
That you can
I
push
built
off
my
of.
dream life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took her, she was literally homeless, living on the streets when she wrote that book. And there's so many stories of rock bottom. You know, most professional athletes that have very humble beginnings, it took that to create the drive. You know, there's lots of spoiled, affluent kids that have more support to make it to a pro level that don't, because they don't ever hit rock bottom. They're stuck in good, and good is good enough. And yeah, sorry, we're just kind of circling this, but don't get stuck in good. Don't get stuck in really good. Realize there's so much more possible for you, and all it takes is a decision. And don't wait like I did, or even at some level Kaitlin did, to get to where you're not very good to make the decision, because it just takes you, I mean, it took me a decade to climb out of it.
Yeah.
I've had clients in the last couple of years that were in really good, that in 2 years are living their dream life. So,
Absolutely.
you know, my entry point was down here. It took rock bottom. Took me till here, 10 years. If you're right here and not so good, or in pretty good, and you make a decision and you do some mindset work and you get intentional, you're going to take off like a rocket ship.
Well, yeah, and maybe there's some listeners that have hit rock bottom and now they're back into good.
Yeah.
And so don't stop.
No.
Keep going.
And some of the stuff we're talking about, and we have our other episode, the 8 hacks or tips to mindset. We got a lot of good feedback. That's basically an outline of our program in a free version that you can take action starting right now and just do it every day. You know, there's certain things you do every day. You know, some people brush their teeth every day.
Well, I hope
Some people
so.
floss.
God,
Not
I hope
everybody.
twice.
No, but make your bed. I mean, there's certain things. For us, 30 minutes a day on our mindset, every day. Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
I will skip a meal and not eat, but I won't skip my mindset work.
Yep.
I will not. Every day.
It's too important. I'm too important. I'm not doing that.
And because of that, we've stacked a lot of things on top of it. I mean, my whole routine now is about 20 things that I do every day.
Mm-hmm.
But because I've been doing them so long, I've made good automatic. I've made it a habit to work on my mind, and I will never stop. So please start today. If you're already on this journey with us, keep going.
Keep going.
Use this as inspiration. You deserve greatness. Every single one of us. You know, you can't get sick enough to help the sick. You can't get poor enough to help the poor, but you can become great enough, abundant enough, wealthy enough, healthy enough, happy enough to serve not only yourself, but every single person you love and care about at a higher level. And that's what this journey is all about.
Yeah.
That's what Enjoy the Ride
I was
is
going
all
to say,
about.
sounds like you're explaining enjoy the ride.
Yes, live life to the fullest. Smell the roses when they're there. When you're on a down, find the gratitude in the down moment. Think, how does it get better? Bounce back. But through it all, choose you, love you, and work on you.
Yep.
All right. Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
All right. Thank you for listening. As always, if you like it and you haven't already, please subscribe.
Subscribe.
If you're on a social platform, seeing part of this, follow us, like us. Again, our business is independent of social media. It's independent, and we do very well financially in the business. This is our message to the world, and we just want it shared. We just want it out there to as many people as possible. So please help us. If you like the message, like it, share it, pass it on, pay it forward. And as always, enjoy the ride. It's a good one. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Fuerer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride.